Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhargavacharya Sotara Shri Maris Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanand Hari Ribo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiraye Nasta praeshu abhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavate uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naistike. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, General History, Chapter 2, Maharaj Nimi meets the 9 Yogendras. We are doing text 48. We are continuing to do text 48. And so we'll just chant the verse and then I'll start from where it was left off from yesterday. Grihitva pindriyar artan Grihitva pindriyar artan Yona dvestina rishyati Yona dvestina rishyati Vishnu mayam idam pasyan Vishnur mayam idam pasyan Savai bhagavatottamaha Savai bhagavatottamaha Grihitva pindriyairartan Yona destina rishyati Vishnur mayam idam pasyan Savai bhagavatottamaha. Translation: Even while engaging his senses in contact with the objects, one who sees this whole world as the energy of Lord Vishnu is neither repelled nor elated. He is indeed the greatest among devotees. Please repeat. Even while engaging his senses in contact with their objects, one who sees this whole world as the energy of Lord Vishnu is neither repelled nor elated. He is indeed the greatest among devotees. Okay, so I will continue reading from after the verse Narayana Parasarve. Right? The state of complete satisfaction in the devotional service of Krishna is not a mental concoction achieved by artificial meditation, but is a result of having experienced the superior nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a reservoir of transcendental bliss, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2.59, Rasavarjam rasopi asya parandrisva nivartate. When impersonalists and voidists artificially try to push material things out of their minds, they undergo great hardships and ordeals in their artificial meditation. Kleshodikataraste sham avyakta shakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavadbir avakyate. Bhagavad Gita 12.5. According to Lord Krishna, it is only with great inconvenience and suffering that one can achieve impersonal liberation, because every living being is eternally a person, being part and parcel of the Supreme Person, Krishna. The concept of giving up one's personal identity is a reaction to the terrible frustration of material egotism. It is not a positive program. If one is suffering unbearable pain in his hand, he may agree to have the hand amputated. But the real solution is to remove the infection so that the healthy hand may become a source of pleasure. Similarly, ego, or the sense that I am, is a source of unlimited happiness when we understand what we are, namely servants of Krishna. Impersonal meditation is dry and troublesome. A pure devotee realizes that he is an eternal person, part and parcel of the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, and that he has the privilege as the Son of God to participate in the ecstatic eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord, loving Krishna and playing with him forever. For such a devotee, the pale material nature, which is but a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, becomes totally unattractive. Therefore, one who is completely attached to Krishna and uninterested in the manifestations of Maya can be considered Bhagavato Uttamaha, a pure devotee of the Lord, as described in a previous verse, Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Viraktir Anyatracha. Srila Madhvacharya has stated, Vishnur Mayam Vishnu Ichadinam. The words Vishnur Mayam in this verse indicate that the illusory energy always remains dependent upon the will of Lord Vishnu. Similarly, the Brahma Samhita 5.44 says, Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Chayeva Yashya Bhuvanani Bibharti Durga. Maya is like a shadow of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who serves him in the creation. Maintenance and annihilation of this world. Just as a shadow has no independent power of movement but follows the substance that casts the shadow, the illusory energy of the Lord has no independent power but bewilders the living entities according to the Lord's desire. One of Krishna's opulences is that he is supremely detached. When a living entity wants to forget him, he immediately employs his illusory energy to facilitate the foolishness of the conditioned soul. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the words Grihitva Pindriyai Arthan indicate that the pure devotee of the Lord does not cease acting within this world, rather he uses his senses in the service of the Lord of the senses. Rishikesh. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that if one gives up those material things which are favorable for serving Krishna, considering them material and therefore an impediment to his spiritual advancement, his renunciation is merely Falgu Vairagya, or immature and imperfect renunciation. On the other hand, one who accepts all material things for the service of Krishna without any personal desire for sense gratification is actually renounced. Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has warned in his commentary on this verse that by envying any of the three classes of devotees, Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari or Kanishta Adhikari, one falls down to the platform of impersonalism and loses all power to benefit others or even himself. Therefore, those who are trying to advance in Krishna consciousness should not endanger their transcendental experience by unnecessarily criticizing other Vaishnavas. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if one engages in Falgu Vairagya or renouncing material things that are favorable to the service of Lord Krishna, one runs the risk of being polluted by impersonal philosophy. On the other hand, by sticking to the principle of Yukta Vairagya, engaging everything for Krishna without personal desire, one can remain aloof from the danger of material sense gratification and gradually come to the Mahabhagavata platform as mentioned in this verse. Amagyanatimirandasya jananjana shalakaya chakshus anmilitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha mukam garati vachulum pangum langayate gurum yatkripatamam mande shri gurum dena taranam paramananda madham shri chaitanya ishwaram Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Savodito Gadodaya Pushpavanto Chitra Sando Tamahonudo Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastabhutale Srimadi Tamal Krishna Goswaminiti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastabhutale Srimadi Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desa Tarini Grihitva Pindriyar Artan Yona Dvistina Rishyati Vishnurmayamidam Pasyan Savai Bhagavatottamaha. Even while engaging his senses in contact with their subjects, one who sees this whole world as the energy of Lord Vishnu is neither repelled nor elevated. He is indeed the greatest among devotees. So, if you remember, Maharaj Nimi actually asked the question, what is the highest good? And then that was the first question, and it was answered by Kavi. And then now his second question he's asking is, what is the religious, or what are the religious principles? I think it's in verse 44. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. What are the religious principles? What are the natural proclivities or symptoms, behavior, speech, outward symptoms of an advanced Bhagavata or Vaishnava? Okay, so he wants to know what are the symptoms. Why does he want to know? Because he doesn't want to make the mistake of offending or not treating someone who's advanced properly. Because you get a lot of blessings if you treat someone nicely. Even if they are not advanced, if you treat them nicely, they treat you nicely. If for example, if the cook, not necessarily here, but anywhere, if there's a cook and if someone goes and speaks nicely to the cook, generally the cook will make an extra plate for the person. It's a fact, no? It is. It's a nature. Unless the cook is very nasty. But it's always like that. If you serve somebody and they have a tendency to reciprocate. So he wants to find out the nature of an advanced person so that he can recognize and then do the proper service or relate to the person in the proper way. So then Havir, he gives the answers from verses 45, 46 and 47. Now from 48 until I believe 55, the distinctions of advanced devotees, the qualities of advanced, not normal devotees, advanced, prema bhaktas or uttama bhaktas, you can say like that. So qualities of advanced devotees are now discussed, and one of these qualities is particularly emphasized here by Havir, like that. What is that? He engages his senses with even if he's engaging his senses with material things, he's always focused with Krishna. Why? Because he sees the relationship. Right? When we see something, we just see the object, but a pure devotee sees the object has a relationship with the Supreme Lord. Not just any object, he sees even individuals. Which is why Krishna says the pure devotee has samadarshan. That means he can see the equality in every living entity. That's a very advanced personality. Of course, when they are preaching, they do distinguish between a pious living entity and an impious living entity. You have to. Otherwise, It's just like if you give a monkey a garland, what do you think will happen to the garland? If you put a garland on a monkey, the monkey will just tie it up. And so similarly, you cannot just give bhakti to anyone, because they won't appreciate it, and they will just make a mess out of it. Meaning they will become very offensive towards the practice itself, towards the person giving them. And therefore, we have to be very cautious as preachers. But we still have to know who's an advanced devotee also, who's a madhyama adhikari and who's a kanistha. Therefore we can relate affectionately, helpfully, in the mood of wanting to help, and in the mood of performing services to them. It's very necessary for all of us. So here you can see, particularly in the verse, that it says that na rishyati, they don't take joy in the sense of objects or the senses, enjoying their senses. They don't want that. They are not attracted by it. And particularly in this purport, they give the clue as to why, and this is very important for practicing devotees. Raso varjam, rasopi asya. That means they have a param drisva nivartate. They have developed a higher taste. So what is higher taste? Same, just like food again, the example. If someone puts too much salt in what they're cooking, then nobody wants that. They'll say, I don't like this, I don't want this, it's too salty. But then, of course, there's different levels of taste. Some people want more salt. And I remember distinctly Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he takes his prasad, after he finishes, he purposely puts a lot of salt in all the sabjis and rice, and he mixes it all up. And then he takes a few more ramen, he eats that. And then he puts the plate and walks away. And then he watches from a distance who is taking the remnants of his plate. So he wanted to see whether they are taking because they like the taste of the food, or they are taking because they want a higher taste. So that's another way of seeing what a higher taste is, recognizing the importance. In truth, Srila Prabhupada, when asked many times by disciples, how do I know I'm happy, how do I know I'm advancing? He said, you'll be happy, I think Keshava Bharati Maharaj also asked Srila Prabhupada, how do I know I'm doing this correctly? He said, you'll be happy. You'll feel the happiness. Rasovarjam rasopiyasya param dirsva nivartate. Your heart will feel very delighted, blissful, happy. You will experience it. It's a personal experience, and as you make more advancement, this experience you can share with others. But in the beginning, the experience you do is only a glimpse, like a shadow. Sometimes you're walking in a hot sun, the cloud will come, and then you feel relief. No? And then the wind blows and the cloud goes away, and back you're feeling distress again. So in the beginning it's like that for most of us, and when we are definitely very strict with our Krishna conscious practices, then we begin to identify activities that are necessary for our advancement. That's one way. The second is we are able to hear very nicely from senior or advanced devotees important points, and then act on it. That's advancement. That's param drisva nivartate. That's the taste you're getting. Because you understand, I want to get out of this miserable place. This is a miserable place. Okay. So different levels of first class devotees are discussed all the way to, I think, as I mentioned, 50. Actually 50. After that it's not so much. It's more different types of symptoms, but the different levels of first class devotees are mentioned up to verse 50. Okay. So what's so special about the first class? They have transcendental experience. Everything they experience is directly connected with Krishna. So they actually experience it. When neophyte devotees like us, when we try to do service, we may not experience like the advanced devotees. We may have, as I mentioned, some glimpse. Sometimes in Kirtan you feel very happy because you are actually getting the taste a little bit like that. So they have a higher taste. Mostly we don't have a higher taste. We have confused taste. Right? Because sometimes we like something that is spiritual and other times we are chasing after material things. Therefore our taste is not refined yet. We are on the path of pure bhakti, but we need more polishing, more refinement. How do we get that? Proper understanding, association. Srila Prabhupada says you have to chant nicely actually. Oftentimes he says chant nicely. And chant be happy. So that's a clue there. If you chant properly, you will be happy. So that means the focus in chanting has to be very, very stringent. Very careful. Don't commit offenses, which is part of this relating with devotees of different levels like that. Also, it's a natural attraction. If you do it properly, the process itself, you will feel a natural happiness. Therefore, it's a natural attraction. And another way of seeing it is, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. We are eternally servants of Krishna. So therefore, when we do devotional activities, we should naturally feel happy. It must be a natural experience. If you don't, then we have to find out why we are not feeling the happiness. What are the things that we are doing that is hampering that experience? What are the things? Sometimes it's the people we associate with. Sometimes when I say people associate, the sangha doesn't necessarily have to be direct. It can be indirect also. You listen to some podcast of some karmi, or watch a movie or stuff like that. So those hampers our proper realization. It does. Those are anchors, right? Like for example, you are in a boat and then everyone gets on the boat and then everyone, let's row, you're rowing, and then half an hour later say we haven't moved. And then everyone says, oh, we forgot to pull the anchor out, So it is like that, We won't make much progress. Maybe, a couple of inches and that's it. We are not making any more. So it takes lifetimes, sometimes, to understand that I have to pull out the anchor. Anchors are family, anchors are country, nation, identifying with that, material science, property, all those things, education, high profile, all these are anchors. So we have to be very vigilant. Krishna's instruction to Arjuna is you have to make the choice. So it's the same thing for us. We have to also make the proper choice. Now, the other aspect you can see with these advanced devotees is they are willing to go through great inconveniences, austerities, hardships. They are willing to go through that. For example, Srila Prabhupada, right? Eventually he quit his family life, right? One day he said, I've had enough, It's either they're sitting here trying to convince them or I go out and make something out of myself. So when he left his family, he had no more shelter, seemingly. Right? If you read his Lilamrita, from one mat to another mat, they don't want to really help him out and he feels so much distress, so much inconveniences. And then he goes out to ask ordinary congregation people, can you help me do this? So they give him a facility, but then there's always some kind of rule, you can do, some binding, something they will say, you cannot do this, or we won't want this. And so he found that all the way. And even when he got to America, Dr. Mishra was giving him a hard time. So he had to live with an impersonalist. So much inconvenience he took, but he never gave up the practice. Not that he was practicing at a lower level, never. He was always practicing that came to him. He was very kind to them. He never said they have to do. Until they asked, what can I do for you? Then he said, then you do these things. Follow the regulator. But still he never forced any one of them. Sometimes out of enthusiasm, we think we can do what Prabhupada did, and we are very harsh with new devotees or even older devotees. Everyone is not at the same level. We have to understand that, and they have a journey that they have to go through, a journey that they have to make it eventually. We can encourage them, but we shouldn't deny them the happiness that they will have in their journeys. That means our relationship with them should be of kindness, as Sarantaku Prabhu said, lovingly showing them, and then respecting them. I like that. So it's all this, austerities, hardships. Individually we have to take it up eventually. That means one day we have to tell our family members, I have to focus on this. Enough of these things. Enough of, roaming around the world. That means we go on tours and all those things. No more. I want to go back to Godhead. That has to take place. That conviction can only take place if the association is proper. As I said, you have to chant properly and it will come in your heart. The vairagya will come. I know this. It happens. And then you have to read Prabhupada's books. His purports are full of realizations. He has so much mercy he is giving. Okay? And read the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and then have good association. It should be Priti Lakshanam, right? Means loving relationship with one another. Has to be. Of course, the authorities, the parents, the teachers, the demigods, they have some responsibilities, so they can be harsh with their people who are taking shelter of them, just so that they can make the advancement. A guru chastises disciple, not that he is happy, I remember many times my Guru Maharaj will chastise people, and his chastisements are not easy for most people. Then he would, when he sees that the disciple is not able to handle, he will say, I'm only doing it so that I can help you go back to Godhead. Don't you want to go back to Godhead? Like that. So similarly, we also adopt, when we want to help someone, sometimes we see they are not able to listen, so we may chastise them, but out of affection for them. Not that I feel so good chastising, now I feel my whole day is finished because I shouted at someone, or I'm trying to correct someone. So we have to become advanced. Advanced means we are, what is that? We are Suridam Sarvadehinam, right? We become best friend of everyone, just like Krishna is best friend, like that. So the other point that is raised here, that is also very important, because it connects with the way we relate to one another, is that we are all eternally a person, right? We are a person, we have two hands, we are not you are not me. We know very distinctly, and sometimes we don't want to be like that. So what is the question of not having an identity of a personality like that? So Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Shri Shintai Chaitanya Chandra, Shri Shintai Gaura Chandra Ki Jai, Guru Parampara ki jai. Okay. So it's a very difficult endeavor for each of you. You can experiment to go in your room, close, lock the door and say, I'm nobody, I'm not this body. After a while you come out saying, where's the prasadam? Right? You can try. You will say, no, it's a very difficult endeavor. And that's what most impersonalists do. They sit, they meditate, trying to deny they are the body, they are this. In one sense, yeah, you're not the body, but you are still a person inhabiting a body. But they confuse that. No? They conflate the non-existence of the body with the non-existence of the soul itself. And so they say we are all one. I'm you, you're me. But I don't want to be like you. So why do I want to merge with you, you know? Oh, then you'll have complete bliss, anandam. So that's all they can understand. But actually, you can find, in terms of, again, this is simple experiment. You sit in your room, you can say, now no one is disturbing me. Am I happy? You know, how much happiness do you get? Then associating with them, even husbands and wives, they quarrel and argue, but they find a lot of happiness in that. You know, because there's some rasa there. Whereas if you're all alone, there's no rasa. So that's what the whole idea is. Raso apya asya param dasva navirtate. So devotee association, devotee conflicts are still full of rasa. But for a good purpose. That's how we should understand. It's for my benefit, like that. So, to think we can get a permanent happiness here in this material world is an illusion. So we all have to come to that understanding. Each individual, each of us, when we are practicing, we must come to that point. If you don't, then it's very hard to sever the ties that holds us. No? All those guna, the ropes, they are holding us back. We have to learn to recognize that this is holding me back. Sometimes you need a push, sometimes you need a kick, sometimes you need good association. You know? If you feel that you cannot see anything holding you back, then you need to associate a lot. No, it's honestly, it's a fact, you know, because then you're not seeing yourself as spirit soul, you're seeing yourself as a material person, existing in the material world. So, looking for happiness in this material world is an illusion. It is an illusion. We should not think it is okay and so on. And of course, there's always the ifs and buts. People will say, I have this, but I have this problem. If this thing happens, then I'll be happy and I'll come and do all the service. But it doesn't work that way, you know. The material world is not like that. The material world is actually very ruthless. It is meant to be ruthless. Durga carries the Trishula. Prabhupada says, she takes that and she steps on the jiva and then she puts the Trishula in them, makes them suffer. And so we are all suffering. So there is another thing, right? Misery loves company, you know. So I'm miserable, and you shouldn't be happy, so why don't you join me and we can both be miserable? Actually, it should be the other way around. So I'm miserable, the devotee is happy. Let me have that happy company. So that should be the way we should be practicing. It's not easy to say, as in the Mayavadi, I'm not a person, because misery comes with association, right? A lot of time that's what they say, because I have relation with so many, and even in devotional practice, we find when we want to, you can ask Sarang Thakur, is temple president, so many times he has got headache, so he has to be the most nicest person. It is an austerity. And when he gets to the point of telling people off, everyone will then send text message and say, he's so harsh. But you know, they don't see the difficulties. He has to deal with the most nicest devotee to the most terrible devotee. You know, when I say terrible, means they are not so cooperative. Right? So it's a difficult thing also. So it's difficult in this material world. Guna Sangha, the way we associate with the material nature, we take on those qualities and make it difficult for our own advancement as well as others who we try to associate. So therefore, we should be very, very careful. The other thing we have to know is, Prabhupada says, and I was just reading yesterday, Krishna is so kind. He's very kind, he's very merciful. Because he knows we are suffering, so he tries so many ways to make us come back to him. So, the other kindness is, he allows the jiva to experience the existence in the material world, but he also gives them a hard lesson. The lesson, every living entity is going through life should be seeing what lessons I have to learn. That is the Vedic understanding. But in the material way, where there's no culture, Vedic culture, they don't see it like that. They see that I can eventually be happy. It's like a drowning man in the ocean, right? He's drowning. Every time he comes up to the air and takes a breath, he thinks, I'm okay now. But then again he goes down. So material life is like that. Occasionally you get to come up to the surface to take some breath of air, and then you think, I am okay. But actually it's not. So it's a hard lesson to learn. But Krishna wants us to learn. So therefore he's very merciful. And once you understand this world is a very difficult place, then you have to make good choices. Mostly we make bad choices, right? Mostly 9 out of 10 times we make bad choices. Reflect back in your life and see how many times you make good choices. The best choice we all made is taking up Krishna consciousness. Apart from that, constantly we make bad choices. How to make good choices? Again, it comes back to our consciousness. We have to chant nicely, associate nicely, and then read Prabhupada's books nicely. Not just, I read 1 hour today. It's not a number again. What is the thing that stood out to you? Just like that Prabhu in San Jose, what's his? Vaisheshika Prabhu, yes. He always says, what is the reflection, right? He always tells them, give me what you think. Why? Because he wants us to think about it, Think about what is it that you gain, what has stood out for you that will help you in your Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So again, we must practice that, otherwise we have problem. The another point that is raised here towards the latter part of this purport is Falgu Vairagya versus Yukta Vairagya. So Prabhupada says there's a river in India, Falgu river. Yeah, where is it? Bihar, okay. So he says this river is very special because when you look at it, it's all full of sand. It's just sand, you go there. But he says if you push your hand through the sand, underneath there's water, he says. So it is false. Falgu river, the Falgu river is false. So similarly, Falgu Vairagya means false renunciation. Then Prabhupada gives rather Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the example of the monkeys. So he says, Markatta Vairagya. Markatta. What is that? The monkey renunciation. So similarly, you can be a devotee, I give up this, I give up that, and then, in some case, I'll go to the forest, I'll sit down, jungle, and so on. So the same way, the monkey also has nothing, no clothes, So just like this renunciants you see in India, right, all no clothes in the forest, jungle. So they also live in jungle eating fruits and nuts. A monkey also eating fruits and nuts. But then Prabhupada says that, yes, but they have behind the next branch, they have their lady monkeys to enjoy. So that's false renunciation. So similarly, we shouldn't also have within our hearts to enjoy material things when we want to pursue spiritual life. It's a challenge because, as I mentioned, because of the way we associate with the material nature and the living entities, we tend to want to enjoy even in Krishna consciousness and therefore we don't actually perform true vairagya like that. So all this makes us think that I can get away with it. But Srila Prabhupada says one have to do yukta vairagya. Now yukta vairagya comes from Rupa Goswami's statement, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Yukta Vairagya. That means whatever we see, anything in this material world is actually a source or energy of Krishna. It is His. Therefore, to take it for ourselves is like a thief. And then so when you take it and wanting to enjoy, then that is also false. We shouldn't do. Rather, the way to renounce things is not to say, I don't want this, or this microphone, this material, I don't want to use this. It's wrong. Prabhupada gives the example. I'm using this so that I can speak about Krishna, therefore it is used properly. That means how do we use it in the service of Krishna? Just like Arjuna, he didn't want to fight. Why? Because he was seeing it as a sense gratification. If I win, my family members all should enjoy with me. So there was sense gratification. So Krishna had to explain to him the intricacies of what life is, what dharma is, what prescribed duties are. Then he realized, yes, goal of life is to please Krishna. So once he realized that, then his performance was yukta vairagya, using it, everything, his resources, his abilities, everything in the service of Krishna. It's not for himself anymore. So that's very important. We find many times people say they are renounced, but then just like this Varshana Dham, right? Previously they had all what Garbhodakshaya Vishnu and Shirodakshaya Vishnu. All of them had many ladies, sannyasis, lady sannyasinis, like that. So trying to renounce the world, another point Srila Prabhupada makes, without knowing that everything can be engaged in the service of Krishna is actually not a first class renunciation. I remember also one devotee, we went to this, I think I mentioned this before, I know I mentioned it before. We had a property we bought and he had a big hall where we can have a temple, and then there was a big air conditioning unit and it was very nice working. So then the temple president then said, no, this is, we shouldn't enjoy all this facility. So he took it out. And then summer came, just like here, summer, how hot it is, right? So summer was so hot, everyone was sweating. And then the congregation members all started arguing with the temple president. Then what happened? He had to spend money, right? And he spent money not on getting an air conditioner, a water cooler he bought. Yeah, because he wanted to save money, because so much money to replace the air conditioner. So these are all Falgu Vairagya. Not that he was evil or what, the intention was not proper, but it was misapplied. Application is important, but he didn't know how to apply it. He thought, oh, this is Yukta Vairagya. But he wasn't even thinking of Yukta Vairagya. He was just thinking Vairagyam. Right? So Vairagya without connection with Krishna is not Vairagya. Okay, it's not Vairagya. It's sense gratification actually, indirectly, like that. So that we cannot renounce the world without trying to know that everything can be engaged in the service of Krishna. Everything. Now when it's not able to, then you ask a senior Vaishnava. They can tell you maybe how to, even stool of an animal can be used. Right? You take it to the grounds, you mix it with the earth, you can burn and then put it as fertilizers. You ask the farmers, they do that. So everything, and then you grow the crops and flowers and so on, and you offer to Krishna. Right? So that's Yukta Vairagya. Generally people think, it's material, I give up, I don't want this. But that's wrong. That's not how we understand. Right? In the 5th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, 29th verse, Bhaktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Lokam Aishwa, everything belongs to Krishna. So learn how to use it in the service of Krishna. We have to. Even when I remember one time in Hong Kong, this was in 1987 October. So the temple was opening, the new temple in Hong Kong. So one of the devotees, he was in charge of the temple, he did the right thing. We were cleaning up, so there were lots of cushions. The cushions were made of cotton fibers and so on. So then he threw all of them. And then the temple opening a few days, so then a lot of devotees were there and they didn't have anything to sit on. So my Guru Maharaj asked him, where is the cushion? He said, I threw it away. He said, why? He said, but it's not good, it's dirty. Then my Guru Maharaj didn't look at him. He looked at all the devotees. How many of you here would like a cushion? So everyone put up their hand. So sometimes, even though the cushion may be dirty and so on, you have to know when to change it also. Act in the spirit of, you need to fix it, but you have to know when to fix it also. But shouldn't take it to the other extreme, say, everything can be used for Krishna, it is dirty and it's stinking, and then, you have guests coming, you're still using it. That's also nonsense. Okay, that's also nonsense. So we have to know how to do that. And of course, finally, about criticizing, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, so what is criticize? The word criticize has been used so badly that everyone thinks it's a very bad thing, right? To express, actually it is to express a disapproval of something or someone. But when we criticize someone, devotee, when he wants to, it should be for the benefit of that person. When you want to say something about someone, you can't just say he didn't say it properly. It should say he should also have said this, but otherwise he is very good. It should be a positive reinforcement, not a negative thing. If the intent behind criticizing someone is to bring them down, that is offensive. Okay? But if the intent is for the benefit of that person, then it's acceptable. Then that is okay. The criticism shouldn't be to attack someone or to condemn someone. Then that is not acceptable. That is offensive. Okay? To bring someone down or make them look less than oneself, that's offensive also. Okay? So we shouldn't. We should never do that. Why didn't you do? Why didn't you do that? Why? Because I did it, so I'm better than you. So that's offensive. Rather, I didn't see you today for the Harinam. You must have been busy. We had a very nice time. That's it. Huh? Right? Yeah. So we should be very careful. And today is a disappearance day of. I'll stop the class. Today is a disappearance day of Vakreshwar Pandit. He was born on, I guess, in a village called Guptipara. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada writes he's the fifth branch of the Chaitanya tree. So he's pretty advanced personality. No, you don't hear much about him, but he's considered in the Gaura Ganadesha Dipika, it is said that he is one of the expansions of Aniruddha, the expansion of Krishna from Chaturvyuha. But he had two prominent disciples. One is Gopal Guru, Sri Gopal Guru, and his disciple is Dhyana Chandra. All these are very exalted personalities. And Gopal Guru writes in his own book that he says his guru, who is Vakresh Pandit, is the Gopi Tunga Vidya. Jai Shri Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Radha Giridhari Giri Govardhani Ki Jai. Okay. So Vakresh Pandit is a very special person. He is both the Gopi and also the expansion of the Lord. It's acceptable, they can do that from the spiritual platform. He's exceptional because he could dance continuously for 72 hours kirtan. So one time he told Mahaprabhu, you just bring 1,000 or 10,000 Gandharvas and let them sing and I'll dance continuously. Prabhupada said, you are one of my wings, so with you I can fly anywhere. Not Prabhupada, Mahaprabhu says that. Yeah. If you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, many places where there's kirtan, just like when Haridas Thakur passes away, Vakesh Pandit is there dancing and singing. So in another place, Ratha Yatra, Vakesh Pandit is there dancing and singing, right, like that. So very, very expert. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived in towards the end in Kashi Mishra's house, right? And the place is called Gambira, right? He used to stay there. So later on, that house was inherited by Vakreshwar Pandit, and then by the disciples, Gopal Guru and others. And he worshipped a deity called Shri Radha Kanta, and then you can see the deity there if you go to the Kashi Mishra's house in Mayapur area. Yeah, basically that's it. Okay? So any comments, questions, corrections? We'll give you a couple of minutes, and then if not, we will just end. No questions, right? Okay. Make sure it's valid question. What's your question?
Like there's 2 points. You said that the material world is ruthless. It's ruthless, right? So in CC 3 or CC Adi 398, it's a very Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says, in the grim clutches of Maya, the first-class prisoners of this material world wrongly think themselves happy because they are rich, powerful, resourceful, and so on. These foolish creatures do not know that they are nothing but play dolls in the hands of material nature, and at any moment, material nature's pitiless intrigues can crush to dust all of their plans for godless activities. If anyone wants a good read, wants like a wake-up call, please read CC Adi 3.98. Really nice. And you said that, okay, you made a point that you said that you cannot give, bhakti or to just anyone. You cannot preach this to anyone. They may not use it properly or may not appreciate it. No, that's a good point, right? You can't just approach anybody. But what about when the Panchatattva, they didn't judge who's fit and who's not fit. They approached everybody.
Who?
The Panchatattva.
Panchatattva.
So yeah. There was a class by Gurudev, the Ramakrishna Goswami. He said that one time he was watching book distributors and how they were making distinctions and they were approaching some people and rejecting some people. He said that's wrong. He said that actually the Panchatattva didn't make any distinctions. They approached everybody.
Yeah.
So you're saying that, your point is,
if you read there's 3 types of devotees, and then at the highest level you don't make any distinction. At the Madhyama Adhikar you have to make a distinction. Even my own Guru Maharaj writes where he will pick those who ate prasadam, he'll preach to them. Those who found the kirtans happy, he'll preach to them. Others who didn't like it, he will not preach to them. Yeah. But in general, we shouldn't think that we are like Panchatattva. You can pray for the mercy of the Panchatattva and approach someone, and if they seem to be favorable, yes. But if they are immediately, you have to recognize this person is not favorable, thank them, and then you move on like that. Yeah. Not that you don't approach anyone. My point is that you have to be very careful who you give these teachings of bhakti easily. Yeah. Okay? Thank you very much. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Brahmanati.